There we go. Today we don't have the whiteboard behind us, but I do have my little pen and pamphlet here. We're going to go over some of the things here on this channel and some of the topics that are going on right now in the performance industry and also within the automotive YouTube channels. Some of the bigger names, the entire intent of YouTube, so on and so forth. Things that might be changing, obviously, through the rules and regulations. Now, anybody that's tuned into this channel knows that it is not monetized. At no point, no matter where it was within the popularity, so on and so forth, I've never monetized it because I knew from the very get go that once you start enabling somebody else to use your platform, your videos, to attract views and to be able to advertise on, you're not getting paid nearly as much. So let's go back to previous TV networks. The the publications of the TV shows themselves. Anybody realizes that, like, during the Super Bowl, the halftime show and the products that are being advertised cost millions of dollars per minute of advertising. YouTube kind of functions in the same way. The content that you are showing may attract the interested viewers, and then there are some marketing employer, some advertisement is thrown in your face. Obviously, within YouTube, you can fast forward it or skip it at a certain point. But depending on the response of how long it takes you to basically skip over that, or the videos, or how many advertisements per video, we're going right back to the old, TV sitcoms, 30-minute shows that had a advertisement every 7.5 minutes. Now, realizing that airtime was how they paid for the actual TV networks. Or if you get into some of the public broadcasting, they wouldn't necessarily have the advertising, so they would have telethons to be basically say, if you enjoy our content, call in and donate so much money. YouTube kind of piggybacked on that idea. Now, does YouTube have an expiration date? Let's call it that. You bet. Since 2007, I believe, since I've had any kind of channels on YouTube, they've adjusted all their different mandates, requirements in order to get paid by YouTube, so on and so forth. And I learned very early on. While this channel has only been around for approximately 5 to 6 years, I was in the very initial groups that were on YouTube. And I learned at that time, depending on the information you were sharing, you could actually make a pretty decent amount. So, for instance, let's go back to 2007, 2008, somewhere in there, right around the housing crisis, so on and so forth. My regular business was not doing so well. So I had to find another way of collecting an income, or at least a side hustle to be able to advertise, so on and so forth. So, as a home inspector at that time, with the housing market crash, you weren't getting called because the houses weren't selling, so on and so forth. But creating videos pertaining to home inspections, things that are required by local municipalities within ordinances, so on and so forth, that channel took off fairly fast, and I was able to actually make a decent amount of money. Now, previous to that, as a home inspector before the housing crash, I could clear just over $100,000 a year. With the crash, obviously, that affected different things, and I was desperate to basically be able to make an income. So, turning to YouTube, I found out very early after you're getting paid, the amount of tax that you have to pay in is different depending on the state you live. Within each tax bracket, depending on how much money that you make, and the expenses you have to put into it. At that time, my channels were edited. They were an actual production. Now, if you realize the amount of money and time that goes into a production, a 30-minute video could take over 2 to 3 weeks to create, to edit, put out there, so on and so forth. And at that time, YouTube was not very popular. Okay, so it was in the initial steps of becoming what it is today. And if you were a part of it, especially at that time, if you made it, they didn't use the 1 million mark back then. If you had 10,000 views, you were paid approximately $1,000 per month for every 10,000 views that you received. But now you also have to add that in to how many videos you create during the year and the amount of taxes you have to pay on each one of those payouts. And where I live, there's additional fees in there. So any of the equipment that I use to produce the videos was also taxed, the corporate tax. So in the long run, while I may have made, say $1,000 per month on the video, it actually cost more per month to actually create the videos. So it didn't take me very long to understand, hey, we're not going to do this. Also having connection to PayPal, because again, at that time, the reason why I hate stickers and I do not like, hats and t-shirts with logos on it, because I've been there, I've done all that. Even looking at the sources of where to find the cheapest supplier of those components and having them embroidered or iron-on patterns and so on and so forth, you don't necessarily make the money to cover the cost of actually having a YouTube channel, even back then when you could make a decent amount. Now today, the productions in YouTube, if you're spending $100 on a video, whether that's in components you might be buying for a project or materials to carry out the project, you better be getting over 100,000 views. And those 100,000 views actually have to show an algorithm to the advertisers that YouTube is putting on your channel. And the amount of money that you might get back from that is, $100 to $200. So again, the amount of production going into YouTube videos and how much money the content creators are getting back is non-existent pretty much. Now, in a recent live with another channel that I follow along with, they were mentioning the big names in the auto content creators. Whistling Diesel, the track down Florida, sorry, I can't think of his name, Derek from Vice Garage, realized that within the last 2 years, YouTube changed the way that they're paying out for their videos. Over the last 2 years, certain content that creators have been creating actually closed down their channels. So for instance, if you were into the firearm review type thing, a gentleman right here in the state of Wisconsin, who was a FFL firearm supplier, did a video piggybacking. Okay, so we remember this part. He was piggybacking. He was actually copying the content of another large firearms manufacturer. So they created a video describing a link, okay, not a computer link, but a piece of equipment for a firearm with a link. He then turned around and created a video describing the exact same thing, and to this day he's sitting in prison. Okay, but the original content creator, the firearms producer, they never got called out on any of it. Okay, so I learned very early on in YouTube that whether it's the taxes, how you're being paid out, the advertising that is actually being shared during your videos, you don't necessarily make money. Now, individuals today are saying, yes, we're selling enough to actually pay the bills. Okay. Obviously, there's very little editing and product purchase to carry out the videos. The bigger channels like Vice Garage and so on and so forth, they could shut down their channels right now and the money would still be flowing in because their older videos that they produced under the previous agreements of YouTube, they're guaranteed to have money flowing in every time that channel gets clicked on. the advertisements during that video, if they pertain to the society of today, let's say it's an advertisement for um, O'Reilly Auto Parts, one of the sponsors for Vice Group Garage. As long as that information is pertinent to today's society and they are watching his videos during that advertisement, even if they skip it, it counts towards that advertiser. And as long as YouTube is making money off of that, Derek is going to get a chunk of it. Okay, so it's nowhere near than what it was, but even those videos that he created over 2 years ago are still collecting money. He has created equity within his YouTube channel. So for somebody right now to start a YouTube channel, this goes back to a debate that I had from an individual that was supposed to be a internet whiz as far as using titles to, asterisks to identify with a certain group. I had the argument with them. It was a live feed that was getting messed up because the attention that it was getting, there were so many people, because it was drama, it was dramatized communication between two individuals. The entire community underneath the hashtags was tuning in to the point where YouTube couldn't handle the live. And on my end, it made me look bad because then they were censoring my video, the live. Because I was mentioning things from my experience doing YouTube videos. I had made money off of YouTube previous to that, and then I cut ties. Because I always held on to when I would be advertised, what time of the day that the videos were being released. I had no control over that. So a majority of my videos were being released in a time frame or time zone where individuals from Europe or Australia were seeing the videos hours before any of the American population. Well, when you're trying to sell t-shirts, hats, and so on and so forth to American citizens that do not, you don't have to charge a shipping cost of $20-something to ship a hat overseas. You can still spend that, $3 or have it directly shipped from the manufacturer to the customer. It was all to benefit YouTube, the advertisers. No different than within the TV. And what have we learned in TV? The production cost going into making a show has exceeded the amount that they're going to extract from the advertisers. They can't charge enough during the commercials to pay for the show. And they can't sell enough merch, okay, to basically pay for the production of the video. Guys using materials they already have their hands on, their overhead cost is a lot cheaper. If they're recording things, with a whiteboard behind them, how much money is involved with that? But if you start going into, I'm going to use this example because it's one of the channels that you can follow along with, David Vizard. David has all of his previous publications where if he wants to utilize a graph or a colored picture of something from his previous productions or publications, he can transfer it into digital platform for his YouTube channel. For somebody to have something like that created now digitally, if you have an IT tech that can actually draw it up, so on and so forth, you're looking over $1,000 a month just to have your videos edited and that the information to be shared. Because once again, you have to look at copyright infringements and all that stuff. Something that a typical YouTube content creator doesn't have. They don't have access to the legal personnel to protect them. One of the channels that was affected within the last 2 years that I can probably share with millions of viewers is Hickok 45. So if you're into firearms, an older gentleman that reviews one single firearm or maybe a couple within the same family in his videos, he produces approximately 1 or 2 every single week. Over over the last year, he's been arguing with YouTube as far as which videos were taken down and how he could get them back. Because he can collect money on the past videos. But if YouTube removes them, he does not get any more money from it. They're dictating of how much profit he gets back, and that's not something that a publisher should have control over. Another example I can give to you, within the musical industry, maybe some of you have heard this this rapper out of, oh man, I can't think of his name now. Tom. Sorry, you guys probably know who I'm talking about. He's an independent artist, so he's not relying on the publisher to get his music out into the record labels and so on and so forth. He's doing it all himself. And he's in competition even with artists like Eminem. I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. He still has overhead costs. But when he gets money back from record sales, he's able to keep it all, and there's not a large portion going to the actual producers or record labels. Another example within the music industry. We all know, especially individuals my age, Metallica. When digital media came out, they were able to basically sell Metallica's music on the open market. And Metallica actually went to court saying that that's against their rights, so on and so forth. If individuals want copies of their music or be able to broadcast them, they have to pay a fee. Where artists like David Grohl from Nirvana, once again, record labels were taking so much of the money. So when you'd see, okay, this singer has gone platinum or has gotten a gold record, I think, oh, we've made millions and millions of dollars. After they've paid all of the individuals responsible for producing the actual music, what they have left over for their own pockets is nowhere near celebrity status. Okay, that is what YouTube is turning into. They're collecting more profits and money from the individuals that are spending a ton in production. Individuals are not making their money back. They're not making profit. That's why channels like Whistling Diesel, Derek from Vice Grip Garage, even the individuals from like Hot Rod Magazine or Horsepower TV, they're not getting paid as much as what they did even 4 years ago. YouTube is taking more of the money. So YouTube is going to run its course, just like television. They have duplicated the exact same things. YouTube was initially created to have everybody to be able to share information openly within their personal lives, so on and so forth, within projects, reviews, just to share information. And the profit margins were done through the PayPal or the merch that was being sold. The videos didn't necessarily have a bunch of commercials. Now you look at YouTube TV, upgrading, paying so much per month. YouTube is doing the exact same thing as what the major broadcasters have done within TV. And it's run its course to the point where at this point on, there's going to be less and less and less content creators, especially those that have to spend money to bring you content. History repeats itself. Okay. So while this video is a little different, drama attracts attention. It's that simple. Cletus McFarlane. I'm sorry, I knew I would think about it. Whistling Diesel, Cletus McFarlane, so on and so forth. Their highest rated videos are ones that show destruction. For instance, one of those little jet boats from Cletus. running up and down the river, jumping embankments, logs, and so on and so forth. Those little jet boats cost about $4,000 each, and you'd have two of them they'd crash around in. The amount of money he made off of just the advertising of that drama paid for the loss of that equipment. Whistling Diesel's entire channel is also based off that kind of destruction. So no matter if it's in the automotive topic to modern day music, the more drama they create, the more attention they get, the more naysayers they get. It all just adds to the algorithm and the amount that individuals get paid. Now, AI is being mixed in with it, as our entire world. Artificial intelligence is taking over pretty much everything. So, has YouTube run its course? I'm getting more content being shared on my feed when I watch YouTube. I'm getting more of the videos that are from 12 or 13 years ago than I'm getting the channels of the more modern day content. Because even though my previous channels have been stopped to where I'm not receiving a paycheck, they're still being watched, but I don't get paid for them because I have cut those ties. Is at this point, if you were to take all my YouTube channels and even this one doesn't get enough attention to basically even pay for the time that I'm putting into the video. Um, I'm not going to stick in, hundreds of dollars of editing or time into it and so on and so forth. I'm never going to get it back. It's to share the information. And I don't want to get paid for it because that gives permission to Uncle Sam to dive into my pockets. Ain't happening. You also allow the YouTube, you also allow YouTube itself to basically dictate of how much they're going to pay you for your content. I don't believe in that. Okay, so my life is not going to be driven by YouTube. So with that, just a shorter video. I don't know if that has helped you out in any way. That is covering some of the content that came from Uncle Tony's Garage Live the other evening, describing his own channel. Basically, even the location of where he's recording these videos. You remember the previous Uncle Tony's Garage, okay? It started out in a rental unit, okay, that he had to have anyway because he needed storage for all the different vehicles and equipment that he had. So it didn't necessarily, cost him any addition to go out there and get a studio to carry out his videos. He then moved to a larger location, a temperature controlled unit, so he could carry out videos throughout the year, even in Tennessee when it got cold or if it was raining. It didn't interrupt his schedule of content. It cost a pretty penny. Now he's moved into a cheaper location. Again, locations where he's allowed to actually park some of the vehicles outside so he doesn't have that overhead cost. Okay, you don't see the special room off to the side for just his podcasts or a room or hallway for his shirt presses and so on and so forth. He reached a point where the amount of time and effort going into the projects exceeded the amount he's getting from YouTube. In order to still be able to pay the bills, he had to reduce the amount of money he's putting in production. And we're seeing that across the board. The YouTube content creators that are still spending the same amount of money to bring you content are going bankrupt. They're depending on past videos and past contracts with YouTube. They're still making that money. But as things wind down and as YouTube runs its course, the less those videos are being shared, the less advertisements they're putting on them, the drama that might be associated with the videos to draw attention, they're losing interest. So the amount of money they're making from past videos is being reduced. And they're not making enough money in current videos to keep the channels going. So again, and once you put, your YouTube channel into monetization, you're now legally bound under the contract with YouTube. If you're willing to take that risk, all for it. Go for it. Do your own thing. I'm not. Okay? I'm not willing to give any kind of legal ability for anybody else to basically control the content. That's why it's never been monetized. Yes, I've had channels before that have been very successful. I learned at that point it's not worth it. If you're just getting in within the last couple of years, last 2 years especially, if you're just getting in and to try to create a YouTube channel, good luck. Okay, really good luck. You can go down the same route as some of the other top channels, the viral channels that get their little plaque, the little honorable $1 million mentions, whatever, or 1 million view mentions. That's going to become a thing of the past. Because you're competing with channels that came out 12, 13, 14 years ago. You're not sharing anything new within content. You're only compiling. And the more videos there are covering a certain topic, the less each one of those channels makes. So you better have something very unique, new, interesting, to where viewers are tuning into it by the millions, and many people are just not doing that anymore. I go through my algorithms here on this channel. Again, most of my retention for any of my videos are going 30 minutes like this here. Individuals stay on for 6 or 7 minutes. It's fine because they're missing the content. They're missing the things that are going on in the videos. Unless they're leaving after 6 minutes and then coming back later, or using the videos to put them to sleep at night, who knows. But I can't follow the algorithms because I don't allow, I'm not monetized, so they don't have to report to me how many individuals are sticking around for longer than that. They're statistical things, they're all over the board. There's nothing that could direct me of saying, oh, this one is more interesting in individuals, so on and so forth, unless it's actually within total views. So the previous video that attracted 305 individuals, it was because of the drama and the content that's being shared within multiple channels. We don't necessarily need to have a hashtag to draw attention to it. The headline word, piston knurling, automatically, anybody, even a guy that only has 20 viewers on any of his videos, is immediately going to be shared. It's the drama that draws attention to it. So if you were to go out and steal, okay, say that Whistling Diesel goes out with some circle track racing slicks, puts them on a 4-wheel drive truck, goes out in the grass and just does donuts until he flips the truck. If you go out and do the exact same thing, you'll cause competition to his channel. And you will fall in underneath his channel marks. So approximately a couple of years ago, there was the 500 Club. I'm not going to mention or draw attention to the group. If you received 500 subscribers, you can compete in this competition. All you had to do was piggyback onto a big channel. Use wording in your title that matched them, and YouTube would share it with that video. Or if you researched it, you were listed right underneath it. You could keep your production way down low and just duplicate what somebody else that was spending a lot within production. Let's call it the B-rate movie, okay? And you could still make money on it. It was not a accurate statistic to show individuals how interested their content was. It's drama. Drama attracts attention. What they say in show business, there is no such thing as bad publicity. So again, whether that's dogs, kids, if I have to explain that. So whether your videos are covering animals doing some foolish things, or um, videos that are showing kids do, some spectacular trick or so on and so forth, those videos get a lot of attention. The videos that also get a lot of attention, the ones that go viral, are ones including individual prosecution. So the individual from here in Wisconsin that is sitting in prison right now, his channel attracted a lot of attention, even some of the bad attention from the FBI, to the point where it landed him in prison. Whistling Diesel has been taken to court. You need to be able to make a lot of money and realize within a business you also have to have the individuals willing to start to defend you, because once your channel gets so big, you will run into legal issues. So if you're making $100 and you're paying the bills, realize you're only one step away from being sued, getting defamation paperwork in the mail, so on and so forth, and it's not worth it. This is a prediction. Within the next year to 2 years, YouTube will have run its course to the point where you will not get paid for sharing any content on it. If you have videos you have created that are not monetized, individuals will be allowed to borrow them and collect money on their own platforms, as a previous individual did with my former 1,000 videos. Because it's not monetized and I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not going to pay attorneys to go after copyright infringement. You just eliminate the video so they cannot steal your information. And YouTube cannot use the videos. With that, I'm going to get off of here. I didn't use my little pamphlet here today. I didn't use the whiteboard. Again, 60 cents, maybe, $4 or $5. A whiteboard with markers. Believe it or not, my markers are actually more expensive than any material that I've used in the content of these videos, because they dry up after about 2 weeks. That's my overhead cost. My time and markers and electricity to put lights on. So I learned my lesson. Take that. Doesn't matter if the channel is 4 to 6 years old. I went back 12, 13 years ago when YouTube first started. I learned the hard way. Do not give other people or organizations the ability to dictate your life. Welcome to freedom. Have a good one.